Hello everybody and welcome to the Mysidian Legend. My name is Alex Scott and this is our first episode. So this podcast is going to be all about my locals play and improving as a player. So the idea is that I'm going to review my locals experience every single week. That means we're going to talk about my deck list, we're going to talk about how the matches went, and we're going to talk about how I can improve as a player. So my hope is that you can learn from this and things I do well and maybe even things I don't do well. And then hopefully I can bring on some guests at some point, some of my local players, or maybe even some players from other cities. So we're going to start off with the first deck that I wanted to talk about, which is an Ice Earth deck, and I call it Ice Earth, Wraith, and Toto. So you might have guessed that this has the new Cloud of Darkness 3 CP Dark Forward, and we also have the new Toto, the 9 CP from the Wraith vs Onion Knight starter deck. These cards are super fun to play with, and I was really excited about Toto, and I wanted to put Toto into a deck list. So I thought to myself, okay, Toto has an awesome effect. What if I can use it lots of times? Okay, I'll play with Rinoa. I'll put Rinoa in there, and then I can flash Toto and use her ability over and over. And then I started looking at Emperor Castel, who's been really popular lately in the meta, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna pair Emperor Castel with a new, some sort of a dark forward, and I wanted to try Cloud of Darkness. Now, I wasn't actually sold on Cloud of Darkness initially, but now that I've played with it a ton, I can say that it is insane. It is such a good card. It's almost always 1 CP because it's, sorry, and I say almost always, but I mean it's always 1 CP net because it has the text when Cloud of Darkness leaves the field. So unless somebody blanks this card with like Yuri or Kukulane, you are going to draw a card off of it. You are often going to draw or be able to select which card you draw off of it, which is the way to go. Like if you can have selective draw, that's good. And this card is also a beater. It gets really powerful. So it's just high value. It's even better than Galdiz, and I love Galdiz. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to talk about the deck list. So I've kind of divided the deck list into a bunch of different categories. If you're watching the video version of this, you're going to have a deck list image in front of you. But I'm basically going to talk about the different facets of the deck. So it's an Ice Earth deck with 27 forwards, 6 summons, and 17 backups. Most of the deck is Ice, but we do run some Earth. So the first package that I'll talk about is the basic discard package. So this is your Sarah 3CP, your Sid Reigns, your Glacia, and Edward, and then we also have Squall and Laguna. So this is the 5 CP Laguna that's going to search any ice forward from your deck, and the Opus 1 Squall that can make you and your opponent discard 2 if you control Laguna. So the idea here is that you play Squall when you have no cards in hand and you control Laguna to make your opponent discard 2 and you discard 0. And this is a really awesome play because it's like a Sephiroth, but you didn't have to spend 7 on it. So the idea also is that you play this combo off of, if you have 1 backup, you're playing it with 5 cards in hand. That's how you're going to play Laguna and then play Squall and have no cards in hand to discard, and you get 2 big forwards. Or if you're on 3 backups, 4 cards from hand. So we also have a number of search options in this deck, and ways to draw cards. So Lock, the 4 CP backup, is super awesome. You can just, I use it 99% of the time just to search other backups. It's just a really good way to curve out and make sure that you are that you're able to set up as fast as your opponent. So I use lock sometimes in the late game to search your forward, but honestly 99% of the time it's searching a backup. He's also a really good target for Vincent to break, so that's another reason why he's great in this deck. So I also have some ice staples in the deck, and that would be Genesis and Celes. So those are both really potent. Genesis is great at just stopping your opponent and snowballing early, and Celes, for the same reason, can freeze important backups like Fusoya or just interrupt their curve, and then you can combo it with things like Sid Reigns, so when you deal damage that it actually is able to ping things off. A couple of earth staples that I run, I have Wall, just for its ability to push through decks by itself. It's deal 3k to a dull forward effect, also combos with Lastwell, Sid Reigns, and Celes, and Vincent. And then I'm also running a Noctis, and just one solo Noctis. It's great against aggro, and this deck can set up slowly sometimes, so I really do enjoy the Noctis. Okay, looking at the finishers of the deck, we have Orphan, and I've chosen Orphan over Sephiroth because this deck isn't fully made around discard. What I want to do is I want to develop an awesome backup line, I want to play some forwards, and I want to swing out and win the game, and Orphan helps me do that. That's what's going to help me close out games. So Renoa, I unfortunately only own 2, otherwise I'd put more in because that's the point of this deck. So Renoa is awesome for flickering a bunch of different forwards. You can use it on Vincent, you can use it on Cloud of Darkness to draw a card, you can use it on Genesis, Celes, Cecil, Orphan, Wraithtotto, and it's just really, really potent. So that's a great way to finish people off, especially if you have something like Orphan, where you can just kind of clear out any blockers that would be blocking you. Alright, so on defense, we've got some summon canceling in Celes and Edward. We also have Jill Nabat as a backup, and this is kind of a meta choice right now. We're seeing a lot of fire creep back into the meta. People are trying it out, and that has a lot of backups that damage your forwards. We also have seen more Fusoya in the meta, and Wind is still up to its shenanigans with Alhanalem, and now Franz joined the party and is pinging you. So I think that Jill is right now a very important include in Ice. Another package that we'll talk about is the Recursion package. So this includes Miner, Minfilia, Apururu, and Scholar. And I'll be honest with you, I've actually already cut Scholar. I think that it's just going to be another search option, possibly a Castalian Empire Sid to search Celes, but there's just not that many options for it to recur in this deck, just Lastwell, Sid Reigns, and Sarah. But the other options there, Minfilia, Miner, and Apururu, can recur any character in your deck, which is huge, so you can pitch your Cecils and your Wraithtottos early, and you can grab them back. You can grab back a Renoa for a big flicker. You can grab your Cloud of Darkness and just keep playing it for more and more value. And you can grab things like, if you have a Cecil out, you can grab a Cecil out and use Dark, so it's great for specials as well. Okay, the final category that we'll talk about, the final little package, as it were, is removal. And we have a lot of removal in this deck. We've got Hecaton here, which is really important for trading your Cloud of Darkness into something bigger and drawing a card. And then you hopefully can play another Cloud of Darkness and then Hecaton it into something else. We also have Glacia, that's just a good card, really handy with the discard, the dulling, the freezing, and the 7k. Sid Reigns and Lastwell are both very potent removal. Wraithtotto has an incredible removal ability to basically break any character cost 3 or less, so forwards, backups, and monsters. And the cool thing about Wraithtotto is you can bring something back like Vincent to kill a forward. You can even do, I've had a play where I play Wraithtotto and then I break something of theirs, and then I play Renoa and I bring back I flash my Wraithtotto, bring back Vincent, and kill a second forward on their opponent's side. And in one turn, I've played Wraithtotto, Renoa, Vincent, and they've lost 2 forwards. So it's really, really powerful, and you can get a lot of mileage out of those cards. I also play Castel and Vincent, of course, and then the Emperor backup is just solid. It's a good EX burst, and it's just a really good way to turn your extra backups or doubles into some removal in a pinch, and Ice needs that to be able to remove some forwards. Finally, we have Emperor Castel, who is just an MVP. He's unconditional removal for whatever you come up against, and it's so easy to break him with to play Cloud of Darkness, or just break him in general. You can just do it without playing anything. And then you can bring him back with Minor, Minfilia, Pururu, and play him again. You can break him with Vincent if you need to, so you can play something else. You have a ton of options there, and it just really helps round out your removal options. Okay, so this next section I'm going to talk about my matches from this week. So we had nine players this week at Magic Stronghold. So that's my local store in Vancouver, Canada, and that means that we played 4 rounds. So the first round, I was playing against my good friend David, and he was playing Firewater. Now, the thing you have to know about David is that he plays a ton of Firewater FF9. He knows the deck better than anyone I've played, and he's got a super refined list. But what he thought would be really funny is if he played the Opus 3 starter version and then did some very minor upgrades. So he put something in like 7 CP Phoenix and the new Terra and like a couple other little upgrades, but he left in a ton of cards. So he left in the backup Ranger, he left in Amarant. I had to actually stop recording there because my landlord's walking around my house right now with a hammer, just hitting in all the loose nails around the house, and he just did a full 360 of the house, and quite a bit of it came through on the recording, so I had to just make a big cut and edit. So we're going to start again talking about David's Firewater. So we had this pretty janky deck. I mean, to be honest, a lot of it was really still very good, but just some questionable stuff like the Amarant. But you know what? We played some test matches on Tuesday last week, and he was running this deck, and he had some crazy turns where he was just hucking forwards at me, and then he'd play Fairy and reactivate Amarant, and then huck another forward, and then play Zidane, and then huck Amarant himself, and just like clear my board with his forwards and ping damage, and it was super entertaining. So anyway, with this game, I opened pretty fast, so I was playing some backups, building up my curve, and unfortunately David could not do the same. So we didn't have as close a match as I would have liked. Some notes from this match: Cloud of Darkness was able to draw me 3 cards. I was able to play it 3 times and recur it once, and it's just such high value. David used removal on it, and I always came out ahead because I'm paying 1 CP and he's paying more than that for his removal. So I was able to close out this game. I even got to play me some 9 CP Wraithtotto, and that was pretty fun. Round 2 was versus Mono Wind, and this was a pretty tough match. So to give you an idea, I was over halfway through the game, halfway through my deck, before I saw an Earth backup, and it was a minor that went into the damage zone, so I was not color fixed this match, and it left me with some really tough choices. Oftentimes I had 1 Earth card in hand, and then when I got a second one, I'd have to pitch 1 Earth card to play the other Earth card, and I wanted to keep all of my Earth cards. I wanted to play Wraithtotto, I wanted to play Castel and Vincent, and I had to end up pitching stuff like Hekkas and get rid of my removal, which would have come in handy later. So I was able to stick in this game for a while. Using Cloud of Darkness, again, helped me draw 2 cards in this game, but I had a very reactive hand, and for a large portion of the beginning of the game, my opponent just played backups and was very conservative, and I went second, so I had all of this removal, but I was unable to use anything, and I think there was even a turn where I had to pitch at the end of my turn because I had nothing to play without overextending super hard into like a Diabolos or something. So I ended up losing that game at the end. My opponent piled a bunch of forwards, as Mono Wind often does, and then dropped the Y'shtola. Not that I'm running 7 CP Wraithtotto, and that was about it. So I lost that round. Now my round 3 was versus Water Lightning Agrius, and I got absolutely crushed super quickly. My opponent opened up with a turn 1 Agrius into a Brawn, which searched out a Viking. He pitched the Viking and something else to play Layla Viking, and passed. On my turn, I developed a backup and took the 3 damage, and the next turn I was able to play a Sid Reigns to be able to clear out the Layla and make him discard. Now here's where I made a big misplay. I had discarded my Squall, even though I had Laguna, thinking that, I'm not going to get to play this, he's pitching really fast, when actually on the second turn I could have gone Laguna, search into whatever, and then played Sid Reigns, played Squall, made him discard 2, and I would have gone up 3 forwards. One of them's 9k, one of them's 8k. He would have lost his hand, and I would have stabilized. But what actually happened is I ended up playing a different card. I can't remember what I played, and my opponent then played an Alua and followed it up with a Shoal, and drew into 3 CP Ramus that would dull my forwards and deal 7k to others, and was very, very quickly able to close me out. So it was a quick game. So I learned a little bit about that one. I need to try to stabilize a little more, and I also need to not let my opponent play a turn 1 Agrius. So that's my bad. Round 4 was versus Mono Fire, which is really refreshing. So we haven't had a lot of Mono Fire in the meta in a long time, and it's kind of enjoying a renaissance right now because it's being seen in a lot of tournaments, and it has a lot of really good cards. It's got a ton of value, and it's kind of taken over from Earth of being the big forwards deck. So you've got Mono Fire with all these different ways to win and all this value. So we had our 4th match, and I had to mulligan, and my mulligan was 9 CP Wraithtotto and 2 Ember Castals, and then 2 other forwards. So I was freaking out. Luckily, I drew into Jilnabat, which is very timely against fire. I drew into Mog 13, and I drew into another backup. So I was just totally set. It was very, very lucky for me. Once again, Cloud of Darkness just kept getting value. I played it twice. It drew me cards twice. I ended up getting to clean up the game with a combination of Orphan and 9 CP Wraithtotto to clear those pesky 3-drops that Fire has. For example, Lise or Aroha is another example. So it was in the end it was a hard win, but like a very good match. So finally, I'd like to talk about some of the improvements that I can make on this deck. Like I said, I'm already going to switch out the Scholar for some sort of a searcher, and it's probably going to be Castelian Empire Sid to search out Celas. So let's take a look at what I might cut. To be honest, I think that Laguna and Squall are first on the chopping block. I really like the combo, but it's just not consistent. It's something that is not easy to set up so that you're perfectly emptying your hand and not discarding from the symmetrical discard effect. So it's something that I don't want to bother with anymore. I do really like Laguna, so I might keep 1 Laguna in and cut 1 Laguna and 1 Squall. So I have 3 different options that I'm considering. Option number 1, cut the Laguna and Squall, and I would put in a 5 CP Kuja and a Vayne from Opus 2. So the Kuja would allow me to dull freeze, kind of help close out games, get a big beater out there, but it also lets me clear up backups. And this will allow me to play things like the Emperor Castel again. So that's pretty useful on its own. AX Burst is always good. The Vane is also just very relevant, shutting down cards like Bart's, Fina, Cloud of Darkness, Orphan, Sephiroth, etc. There's so many 5 costs or higher now, Nail, that you can shut down a lot with it. So this is the option that right now, this is what I'm leaning towards. Option number 2 is to cut 2 Lagunas and 1 Squall, so 3 cards total, and then I would put in the 3 Sephiroth package. And there's certainly an argument to be made for this. I've got Renoa's, I've got Recursion, so I can flicker my Sephiroth and make them discard lots. I can play an Apuru and grab a Sephiroth back and then use his special to make them discard again. So there's a lot of support in this deck, but I'm trying to go a different way with this deck. I don't always want to just play the defined ice build, and I think that there's a case to not play Sephiroth. I think sometimes he's too expensive. I think sometimes your opponent plays a low hand size and he becomes bad, and if you're not going full discard with Sid Alstein, then I'm not going to bother with Sephiroth. So option number 3 would be to cut just 1 Laguna and the Squall and to put in more Earth cards. And to be honest, I would just throw in another Noctis and another Wall. They're both really good cards. They're both really solid cards that are just staples. With Wall, he just combos with a lot of things in this deck. So I am also going to cut 1 Sarah for Gabranth. I already have 1 Sarah and I have 2 Sid Reigns and 2 Orphans, so Mog 13 has a lot of search targets, and I don't have a boost for Sarah besides 1 2CP Carbuncle, so I don't really need to have 2 Sarahs in the deck. I have lots of ways to make people discard, and I think this Gabranth is going to help me search out my Shantoto, my Orphan, Cecil, etc., and I think that that's going to be a pretty valuable addition. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there for the first episode of the Mysidian Legend, and I want to thank everybody for listening. I know that this is a pretty short podcast format, but it doesn't have to be that long, considering that I'm just going over one night of locals and kind of detailing a deck that I've built. And I think that it's going to be a little longer in the future if I'm able to bring on guests, etc. But it's also very difficult to talk by yourself for this long. It's something that I'm sure I'm going to get better at as time goes on. But for now, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you come back and listen to me again. Thanks a lot. See you next time.